of zero trust. Yeah. So zero trust is where you have you have a bunch of, like, let's say a network, right? Imagine a network of a whole bunch of systems, nodes, all devices on a network, right? And you have a firewall on that network. You only allowing certain people to come in and out. So now with zero trust, you take it a step further. Inside of the internal network, you have layers of security inside of that network where system A and B are inside the network, but they don't automatically trust each other. This one has to authenticate to get to this one. Whereas before, it was kind of like a castle. You had a castle with a courtyard and everything's protected inside of that courtyard, right? The castle walls protect everything. Behind the firewall, everything's protected inside. These days, it's so crazy right now. You've got to have you can't, those A and B that's inside the courtyard can't trust each other because maybe A was compromised and will take over B. So now zero trust, you have to have things like identity and access management so that they can talk to one another. So what's happened is the reason why it's more popular now is because you can't have zero trust without proper identity and access management. So we have, like, right now we have a whole team that's all they do is manage PKI keys because they have to manage how have a certificate for each system to talk to one another, and they're constantly rotating those keys because it's not trusting, those systems are not trusting each other. So the reason why it's blown up is because of zero trust, right? And the LinkedIn user says IAM came back with adoption of cloud and zero trust architecture. That's right. Yeah. So that's why, like, this is, I just thought about, because I'm like, oh shit, that's why, right? It's zero trust. That's why, for sure. Because that's what I'm seeing right now. Because it basically, you have to have zero trust because a firewall's not enough these days, especially with government backed, nation state backed hacking organizations who are very well funded, and they're very, very smart. They're not competing with your firewall. They're taking out the weakest link. What they're doing is they're targeting people inside the organization, or they're targeting the supply chains. They find the weakest link and then they go after that person or that system or that process. They they infiltrate that weakest link, and then they're inside your network. So if they compromise one system inside of your network, but you have zero trust, they can only go so far. Yes, they've compromised that one system and all the data on that, maybe the data on that system, if it's not encrypted, but they can't go and compromise this one to go that one and to go this one to go that one and escalate their privileges. And because that's how they've done it in the past, and that's how they're still doing it right now if an organization doesn't have zero trust. So just think of zero trust as every system in your network is another castle. It's a castle within castles. Each one of those castles has its own moat, its own firewall, its own guards. If you think about zero trust like that, that will open up the why of why IEM is so much more popular. Why is it getting? Because organizations are taking cybersecurity way, 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 way more seriously. Because you have to. Because now nation states are attacking all types of parts and pieces of the infrastructure. They go off the weakest link, they get in, and then they just escalate their privileges. I don't know if you guys heard about this. I talked about this last week, but there was an infiltration of a major cybersecurity organization called F5. F5 supplies all kinds of devices and services to other large organizations all over the world. And they were infiltrated by a bigger fish, which is China. China's no joke, man. China is no joke. That's, of course they asked China, like, well, hey, what are you guys doing? They're like, we have nothing to do with this, right? So nation states are attacking, not to attack China, because I'm sure the US does the same thing. But if a nation state, if a country, a government can back can back a hacker group, a bunch of talented or one talented person to go and infiltrate some supply chain that's in GitHub, right? Or just pay somebody who's already in GitHub a whole bunch of money to do something stupid, to do something crazy, so that they can get into they can get into whatever gigantic network. Money talks. So that's kind of what's happening right now. So you basically have to have zero trust, and more organizations are starting to adopt it, and so that's why you have more IAM, I'm sure. And then somebody said, security expert says IAM is a hot area. Getting in does require some experience, though. Yeah, it normally, correct me if I'm wrong, security expert, but they're wanting you to know a specific vendor a lot of times, right? Like, because there's different IAM solutions, and then they're wanting you to know, okay, we want an expert in AWS IAM, we want an expert in Cisco IAM or whatever, or we want an expert in Azure or Microsoft AD or something like that, right?